His Holiness arrived here in Boston in the rain, we couldn't help but think of the sunshine that's been forecast for his visit in Des Moines this coming Thursday. The significance of his arrival in our country was witnessed by the large delegation on hand for the welcome. First Lady Rosalind Carter, distinguished members of Congress Tip O'Neill and Senator Kennedy, and distinguished members of the church as well. This coming Thursday, the welcoming honors will go to Bishop Dingman of the Des Moines Diocese, along with Governor Ray and Mayor Olson and their wives.
Your Holiness.
As you can see by the crowds along the motorcade route today to the Boston Commons for the papal mass, rain didn't reduce the numbers of the enthusiastic crowds who turned out to see their Holy Father. A crowd of thousands, the likes of which we're expected to see this coming Thursday at Living History Farms. Living History Farms, a bit larger than Boston Commons, should be able to accommodate even greater numbers than those that came to see the Pope here. With Pope John Paul in Boston, I'm Dave Nixon for News Center 13.
Okay, now there's one area that I'd like to briefly talk about. This is the time for people to get uptight because we're getting very close. And I've noticed a little bit of stress starting to show on some people in the last couple of days. So I say, you know, there's nothing that we can't handle yet. Let's stay cool, calm, collected like we've been since we began this whole thing, and make sure that it comes off well.
I guess what people most often ask me is how important was he in this whole process? And my answer is that it would never have happened except for Joe Hayes.
The letter is dated 19 July, 1979, to His Holiness Pope John Paul II. We here in St. Mary's, Iowa, were delighted to hear of your reported visit to the Midwest. Possibly one of the most young and enthusiastic groups of representatives in the church in America today is our own rural life people. The title of our program is Strangers and Guests Toward a Community in the Heartland, with a grassroots study on land. The study originates from the bishops of Regions 7, 8, and 9. We here are especially pleased to have a real rural bishop, our own Maurice J. Dingman of the Diocese of Des Moines. Our regional director is Monsignor Paul Connolly from here at St. Mary's, Iowa. Our prayer here in the heartland of our United States is that more people become aware of our program, develop a true concern for our land and its use by mankind. In this way, we can be a stepping stone in the proper use of our land for the betterment of mankind. Also, it is our request and desire to share company with one of, if not the most humane popes of the Church, Pope John Paul II. In the event that you are to be in the area as reported in October this year, we would very much appreciate an audience with you. Please give firm consideration to our plea and pray for us in our cause. Yours in hopes and prayers, Joseph A. Hayes, Truro, Iowa. I think that the arrangements for the, but I went ahead with it. I pursued an idea that I had and an inspiration or whatever you want to call it, and I think it was really neat. And I have a real good feeling that, I was told that the Pope did read the letter, and he said, I think it would be very good that we go to the heartland of America. And that there just makes you get lumps in your throat. So I feel really good about that. And I'll be sure to ask him and talk to him about it whenever I see him. I'm going to say, did you really get to read the letter? And I think he's going to say yes.
He initiated it. His was the voice of the Spirit to me. And I often say that best ideas come from people. Bishop, listen to people. And this is what I did.
What's the R&T going to be doing?
Having one photographer.
Just, he takes pictures, right?
He takes pictures for both publications. See, I have a hard time just putting two national people up there and no local. I just think, and I have a hard time putting the R&T without one person for a book. And I have a hard time trying to figure out who we're going to X out after that.
Do they need exactly 8 feet, or can they live with approximately 7 feet?
I don't know if he'll do it or not. Jack, do you want to talk? Do you want to talk with this guy if I get him on the phone?
Yeah, but let's check with their number because I think he's got somebody that's 95%.
Okay, I may have this popcorn guy.
No, there's only one people with his name.
When I heard that he was coming, it was naturally a feeling of elation. We had worked hard, we had planned, and the answer was delayed for a number of days, and finally it came, and after the moment of elation, then it was a matter of, let's get to work.
Bishop Dingman and I were driving in the car about 2 days after Bishop Marcinkus told us that the Pope was really going to come to Des Moines, and he asked me if I'd be the general coordinator for the entire visit. I was happy to do it. I was looking forward to the challenge. I was a little bit scared, and I knew we had to do 3 things. We had to pray because we were going to be at the mercy of the weather. Secondly, we had to draw up a master plan, and we did that in about 3 days of seclusion, where all we did was with the newsprint and all the ideas and things that had to get done, we drew up that. Then we had to staff that plan. And we already had good personnel from the Chancery that would help us, but we needed some expertise, especially in the area of logistics. We needed somebody who could come in and really help us organize the operations of this whole thing. So Governor Ray's office got a hold of us and said they'd be happy to let us have Colonel Thompson.
What's in the trailer?
He said the trailer's there. I don't know any trailer. It's a small trailer.
Organization just had to come wham, just like that. Right or wrong, It had to be there, and we had to drive. Like I told them from the very beginning, I said, we may not come up with the best plan, but what we want to come up with is a fundamentally sound program, one which will work, and execute it well. First of all, let's talk about the cleanup. And after the event is over, several people knew me, and so some of them just called me, just flat called and said, hey, I'm not doing anything for the next 30 days, and I understand you're in charge. Do you need some help? I said, you bet, come on down. And then I took them and I tried to plug them into the area which their expertise was best suited.
Okay, they're going from the hilt.
That's right.
On floor.
But one thing happened when they all got there. I don't care how they came. Some maybe came a little bit reluctantly or not knowing what was going to entail. But once we had them about 2 days, we had them fired. I mean, there was no question. They got motivated by just being in the environment. And so motivation was never a problem.
I'll tell you one thing about these pit helmets. Two things. First of all, they're cheap. And secondly, they're not designed to stay on in a high wind.
When you involve a lot of people, you take a risk. If this had been done a few years ago, the bishop would have taken this thing and he would have done it himself. I think doing things monarchically, if you want to call it that, from the top down, is safer. I could not do that in the kind of church in which I live today. It had to be the people, and we had to take the risk.
The total experience has made me much more conscious of the presence of God and the workings of the Spirit in our midst, because I saw so many ways and so many concrete examples. The situation made expectations and demands and asked for resources to be tapped that had not been done before. And I know I have a much greater appreciation of the richness and the diversity and the goodness of so many people.
Much of the spiritual effect or the building of faith very quietly and gradually happened to all of us prior to the visit. I almost see the build-up to the visit as even more significant than the visit itself, in a sense.
He will go on those platforms so that people can get a little better view of it because
Hi, how are you?
I think one of the things that helped us very much in this diocese was the fact that Bishop Dingman has always insisted on our diocese being very faithful to the concept of the church that you find in the Second Vatican Council, in terms of the fact that the people all share the responsibility for the church, that everybody has a gift to bring, everybody has something to offer. And by the Holy Father coming, it said to many of them, you know, this is an opportunity for me to kind of evaluate that whole aspect of my life.
People just kind of surfaced and volunteered time and materials and skills and labor, and a majority of those people were non-Catholics who just, again, felt that they wanted to be identified with an experience. And they felt a part of it, they wanted to be a part of it, and without them, it never would have come.
people just were interested in doing the best that they could together. And there were a lot of people with just an amazing amount of talent who were willing to share that. And that, I think, in the end is what made it successful. It's the fact that people just had something to give, and they gave it the best way they knew possible, and somehow it all fell together. It's amazing.
We did this not just with Catholic people, but we did it with people of every denomination, and ultimately it became a civic celebration, and the whole community was involved. I like to say that this whole thing has been providential. God wants it, and he's going to get it. And I don't think you can explain what has happened here from the very beginning to the point to which we have come at the present time. It really doesn't have an explanation except to say it's providential.
For some reason this morning I got this funny feeling that I'm kind of going on a retreat these next couple of days, and I thought, well, that's crazy. I'm supposed to be worried about things these next 2 days and frantically running around. But I don't feel that way at all. I just feel very much at peace, and I just feel like it's going to be a holy moment and a peaceful moment. And I think God's going to show us that it really is out of our hands. It's always been out of our hands, and it's going to be put out of our hands Thursday.
It has been raining here in New York this morning, Steve, but despite the rain, the people are turning out again to see Pope John Paul II. Today, there was a little enlightenment as the pontiff received a pair of American blue jeans. As we said, it was one of the symbolic gifts from the youth, the theme of this morning's appearance at Madison Square Garden. The pontiff, after the Madison Square Garden appearance, en route to Battery Park in New York, and then later on this afternoon to Philadelphia as we make our way across the country to Des Moines, Iowa. I think that all the people in Iowa tomorrow will find what they've been seeing on television as the pontiff has been making his way across the country, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. That sincerity and that warmth and the way that he has about him to communicate that sincerity will be felt in Des Moines when he arrives at the airport tomorrow afternoon. We'll have another report tonight, by the way, at 6 o'clock on News Center 13, Steve. And that report tonight will be about the foreign press that we are traveling with.
Once we go into the final shot here tomorrow, we'll probably not have an opportunity to come back together, and I just want to express my appreciation to each and every one of you people for the tremendous job that you've done. I don't know where in the world we could have come up with a more competent staff, and if we had it to do over again, why, I wouldn't change a single person that sat on this staff and done this job. And if it doesn't go well, it isn't because we haven't done a good job of planning, and it isn't because we haven't really knocked ourselves out to get it done.
Wonderful. I've been here since midnight and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And today is just beautiful, even though it's chilly out here. And the people, I just to stand on the hill just gives you shivers seeing all the people.
Don't happen too often.
Ladies and gentlemen, here on this historic day, at this momentous occasion for all of us, permit me to extend a heartfelt welcome to the Living History Farms. And may I point out that in another few minutes, you will hear a beautiful ecumenical program.
An hour before the Pope's late arrival, it looked like only 3,000 people had shown up when 20,000 were expected. But it's estimated about 7,000 were actually on hand to greet the Pope. Among them, Bishop Dingman, Mayor Olson, and Governor Ray.
We want you to feel welcome here in the state of Iowa, and we want you to feel at home with people who live in a good environment and who are friendly people.
בכל הארץ
preparation for this event, we have felt loved, wanted, accepted. We have prayed for each other. We have deeply cared for one another. It is my prayer that that same spirit of love will transform our lives, our homes, our community, and our land from this day forth and forevermore.
St. Patrick's Church has been a fixture on this Iowa hillside for more than 100 years. People who live here say the church building hasn't changed much in the last 25 years at least. But this afternoon's brief visit from the Pope made this building a cathedral and profoundly changed the lives of the people who worship here. Most political leaders and entertainers wouldn't know how to act in a small town. But Pope John Paul II was a country priest himself, and he blended just as naturally with the people from St. Patrick's as he has with people in cities all over the world.
They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of the bread and the prayers. This is what every community of believers must do.
Then the Pope walked back through the parishioners, touching as many children as he could along the way.
What did it feel like to have the Pope come up and notice you especially?
Oh, it's kind of wonderful, you know. I just stand there and he came up to me, and it was pretty great, because I've never seen a Pope before.
The providence of God is very evident in this event and in all of rural America. As we gather on this knoll with the beauty of God's handiwork about us, may this occasion be a celebration of thanksgiving as well as a reminder of our responsibilities to the whole world. We are a pilgrim people on a pilgrimage. We have practiced hospitality, and we have tried to mirror simplicity in our every effort. To a pilgrim Pope, we, a pilgrim people, extend our heartfelt welcome.
Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, the land is God's gift, entrusted to people from the very beginning. It is God's gift given by a loving Creator as a means of sustaining the life which he had created.
I saw him as hierarchical. I saw him as in that awesome position as the vicar of Christ, the head of the church, the man known around the world. But I also saw him as a person, and I was never more at home with anyone.
To all of you who are farmers and all who are associated with agricultural production, I want to say this. The church highly esteems your work. You who are farmers today are stewards of a gift from God, which was intended for the good of all humanity. Bring with you to Christ the products of your hands, the fruit of the land, that which earth has given and human hands have made. At this altar, these gifts will be transformed into the Eucharist of the Lord.
The scene called forth in me and in several other people who were planning images of, Jesus speaking to the multitudes or the people gathering on the hillsides. I really felt that our celebration had more of a sense of the church as the people of God. And here's this man from Rome who gives us more of a sense of him being with us and one of us than any other pontiff before him.
We keep trying to realize ourselves that the church is people, that the church is not a building, that the church is not a set of laws, that the church is the people of God called by Him and working together.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus.
The Mass is ended. Let us go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
One of the insights I gained from the entire experience was the realization that this man is a real catalyst to pull together people of goodwill, military, government, business, and religious. They work together, and that was a new perspective on the church, and perhaps a new role for the church in the future that I had never really appreciated before.
Glory and praise to our God.